out there that have lost their job and are hurting.
All right, one more.
I'm not a member of a union. No one in my family is a member of a union. But I have been told my husband's not a member of a union. No, this is interesting. I have no vested interest in whether or not people have collective bargaining rights or not, but what I've been told out on the petition drive, what I've been told by volunteers, what I've been told out on the campaign trail, is that people have given up higher wages than they might have made in the private sector in exchange for benefits and pension. And so when you take those things away from them, you're effectively stealing from them. That is what I've been told.
Yeah, I've heard that too. I've heard that too. I don't buy it.
Say it again in case everyone didn't hear it.
I said I've heard that too. I don't buy it.
Why don't you tell President Buster?
Sit down! Just escort this man out, please. Sorry for the interruption. Consolidating many of the thoughts and questions sent to us for this forum. People are tired of partisanship, recrimination, blame, and they're tired of recalls. Some of the things they'd like to see are, in Madison, between the parties, civility, communication, cooperation, openness, and respect. Senator, what needs to be done to make Wisconsin state government more politically functional?
I've been in the legislature obviously for a while. There are a number of people that served on the other side of the aisle that I have been good friends with over the years. I still have a number of Democrats that I work with on a regular basis from anything from how the Senate functions on all the way down to pieces of legislation. 96% of all the bills signed into law by Governor Walker this session are bipartisan. 96%. And I think that might be shocking to a lot of people sitting out in the audience, because the focus, oftentimes by the media, and rightfully so, because they're trying to get listeners and sell newspapers, is to focus on that small little piece that's left out there. Listen, I get along fine with John Erpenbach, I get along fine with Mark Miller, we're friendly, we talk outside of the Senate chamber. I've always said that this is something that I think has been overblown. And in this last session, sure, it's been very high profile. No one, I think, expected the state to become the tip of the spear on this discussion about unions and the taxpayers' ability to pay for the unions. But, you know, ultimately, I hope that if we can get past these recalls, and what I'm hearing on the door-to-door right now, which is not necessarily what I heard when I was helping other senators in the first round of recalls, is enough already. We're sick of paying for recalls. We're sick of watching the TV, listening to the radio, and getting the direct mail on a regular basis. Enough is enough. And I'm hopeful that after June 5th, we can move on and move into a regular legislative schedule like we've operated under for the last 100 years in the Wisconsin State Senate.
Thank you, Senator. Ms. Compas, your feelings on this?
Well, I wish we could separate the right to recall from partisanship, but I guess I would like to address the right to recall first. I want to stress that democracy doesn't stop when we cast our ballots. It's a continual process. And we need to watch our leaders and hold them accountable. And this right is protected in our Constitution. What we're seeing here is a pattern of abuse of power and betrayal of trust. The senator broke the open meetings law. He forced his fellow legislators to sign secrecy pledges. And he didn't campaign on these major policies that he has imposed on our society. He didn't tell us he wanted to divide and conquer us. Recalls are extraordinarily difficult. Many recalls have been attempted, including the recent one of Senator Jauch, but most fail because they are so difficult. So that's how I feel about the right to recall. As far as partisanship, I think, things like forcing people to sign secrecy pledges and only allowing people to see certain information if they belong to a certain party does not help the bipartisan cause. The first thing I would do when I'm sworn in as senator, I guess, is shake Senator Schultz's hand. I really want to reach across the aisle to more moderate Republicans and see how we can work together on bills.
Thank you, Ms. Compas.
First of all, I didn't break the open meetings law. I know the open meetings law inside and out. On that evening, I know and everybody knows that the Senate rules, as they've been written and passed by the entire body, say that there is zero notice that needs to be given for a conference committee. Oh, and by the way, that is probably, that conference committee that evening in the Senate parlor is probably the most watched public meeting that has ever happened in the history of the state of Wisconsin. The idea that somehow that was done in secret is absolutely ridiculous. The other thing I'd just like to say is secrecy pledges. Every bill that's ever been run through the Wisconsin legislature has a period of time when it's in drafting. And if you're elected senator of the 13th district, I'd like to hear what your pledge is on how you're going to handle the drafting process when people are brainstorming about what they want to do with a piece of legislation. If you don't have that protection, oh, by the way, which has been afforded by the Wisconsin Supreme Court on a case that was challenged under Senator Dave Zine, and the court said absolutely, legislators need a period of time in which they can discuss legislation before it's made public so that they cannot be hurt by the idea of having an open exchange amongst the legislators. And it's like any other proposal that you might see. You have to have a period of time in which there's a creative process and people can give and take. That is exactly what happened with everything that was part of redistricting. The idea that it was done any different than the way it was done 10 years ago by the Democrats, which is exactly the way they did it, or 20 years before that, is ridiculous. We modeled the whole redistricting process off of what had been in place before. So you can continue to say that somehow I manipulated and forced. The idea that I would force Senator Mike Ellis to sign a secrecy pledge and he wouldn't understand what he's signing, you haven't met Mike Ellis. It's ridiculous.
Can I respond to that?
Go ahead.
I actually watched the court session when Judge Sumi was deciding whether or not your actions broke the open meetings law. And I remember an aide testifying that she ran to post notice because she knew that time was limited. She knew that she needed to give 2 hours notice. She didn't quite make it. She did not make it in time. 2 hours notice was not given. The Supreme Court ruled that it was indisputable that proper notice was not given. And they said that the legislature could make up its own rules. Also, I think it's disingenuous to suggest that you always do things this way. These secrecy pledges were unheard of. I've seen them. No, I've seen them myself.
They were done 10 years before that.
You were named on attorney letterhead, and every Republican legislator was apparently forced to sign.
And my brother, the speaker, and I duped every Republican legislator into signing a secrecy document. You really believe that, Lori? You really believe that?
I didn't say that they were duped. I said that
They willingly did.
I have read, and you can tell me if this is true. I have read that a legislator was welcomed into a room. shown two versions of a map and said, this is the version of the map you'll get if you sign this pledge. This is the version that you'll get if you won't, and we'll run a Tea Party candidate against you. Is that true?